Hello everyone, this is Renu Gaur, Assistant Professor, English Department, Government College, Dausa. In this video, we will read the poem The World is Too Much With Us, written by William Wordsworth. Before we start reading the poem, it's important to know some facts about the poet, that is William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth, he was an English romantic poet who helped to launch the Romantic Age with Samuel Taylor Coleridge with his publication Lyrical Ballads. He is considered an early leader of English Romanticism. He is best known for his worship of nature and humanitarianism, as he is concerned with the human relationship to nature. He advocated the use of vocabulary and speech patterns of common people in poetry. So we can say that he is great lover of nature as well as the poet of common man. So as I have told you that Wordsworth, he was an English romantic poet, so it's important to know about the romantic movement. So we will talk the romantic era. The romantic era includes the time period from the late 18th century to the mid 19th century. It emphasized on self-propelled creativity, imagination, and value of art. It emerged as a reaction against the Age of Enlightenment. The Age of Enlightenment emphasized reason and logic that dominated much of European philosophy, politics, and art. I'll give you some name of Enlightenment thinkers. Some of the Enlightenment thinkers, they valued logic, reason, rationality. And the Romantic writers, they valued emotions, passion, and individuality. So the pioneers of Romanticism wanted to break away from the conventions from the Age of Enlightenment and make way for individuality. These Romantic poets used imagination so that common thing can be made look in the most beautiful way. Now we will read the poem The World is Too Much With Us by Wordsworth. The world is too much with us, late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I would rather be a pagan, suckled in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. Have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. So students, in this poem, the poet Wordsworth, he criticizes the world for being absorbed in materialism and distancing itself from nature. He gives a fatalistic view of the world, past and future. You see in the very first line, late and soon. So the words late and soon in the opening verse describe how past and future are included in his characterization of mankind. The poet knows the potential of humanity's power, but fears it is clouded by the mentality of getting and spending. So, the poet says that we waste our powers. We are wasting the powers and we see very little in nature that is truly ours. It's a sordid boon, and the phrase sordid boon and given our hearts, it's a materialistic progress of mankind. The speaker complains that the world is too overwhelming for us to appreciate it, and people use all their energy to earn money. They are so much engrossed in earning money that they see nothing in nature. Now, unlike society, Wordsworth does not see nature as a commodity. He says that we should be able to appreciate beautiful events like the moon shining over the ocean and the blowing of the strong winds. The little we see in nature that is ours, it exemplifies the removed sentiment man has for nature, as they are so being obsessed with materialism and other worldly objects. So Wordsworth romanticism is best known through his appreciation of nature in these lines and his woes for man and its opposition to nature. So this phrase, this sea that bears her bosom to the moon and sleeping flowers, it gives description of natural beauty, suggesting how nature is being overrun unknowingly and is helpless. The verse, I, standing on the pleasant lea, have glimpse that would make me less forlorn. Here me is the poet Wordsworth. So this line reveals Wordsworth's perception of himself in society. He is a visionary. He is romantic, more in touch with nature than his contemporaries. The speaker would like to be a pagan who worships an outdated religion, so that when he gazes out on the ocean, he might feel less sad. When he says, read this line, great God, I would rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So in this line, the poet wishes that he would rather be a pagan who worships an outdated religion, and if he were a pagan, he would have glimpses of the great green meadows that would make him less dejected. He would see wild mythologies and gods like Proteus who can take many shapes and Triton who can soothe the howling sea waves. So now we will discuss the technical aspect of the poem. Technically, it's a sonnet. Sonnet, you all know, it's a 14-line poem. They are of two types, Petrarchan sonnet and Shakespearean sonnet. So it's a Italian sonnet, or we can say classical sonnet, which conforms to a set of strict conventions. The first stanza, that is octave, it is of 8 lines, and the sestet consists 6 lines. In the poem, we have some collective pronouns. The poet uses the words we and us. This includes the readers to engage with the poem. The poem has some mythological examples in the last stanza as pagan. So what pagan? Pagan were the followers of old faith of ancient Greece and Rome that flourished before the spread of Christianity. Next mythological example that we have in the poem is Proteus. Proteus, he is an old man of the sea in Greek mythology who tended the seals, which are the flocks of Amphitrite. He possessed the gift of prophecy and power of assuming any shape he pleased. Triton. Triton, he was a sea deity who used to blow his conch shell in order to collect together the creatures of the sea kingdoms. Now, we will look the literary devices that are in the poem. The poet has used personification in the line, "the sea that bears her bosom to the moon." So, the sea, it has been given the human qualities who has opened her bosom to the moon. The winds that will be howling all the hours and sleeping flowers. These expressions make nature, that nature possess human-like qualities like yearning for love, sleeping and soothing. So the poet uses personification in these lines. Next literary device that we can find in this poem is an allusion. Allusion, you know that it's a direct or indirect reference to a person, place, thing or idea of historical, cultural, political or literary significance. So we have allusions to Greek mythology, that is Proteus and Triton. I have already told you about Proteus and Triton. Next we have imagery. Which type of imagery we have? We have in this line winds that will be howling, sleeping flowers. So we have the imagination that winds, they are howling, the flowers, they are sleeping. So the poet is using imagery. Now we also have consonants. Consonants, you all know. I have earlier told you in my previous video about the literary devices about consonants. So consonants is a repetition of consonant sounds. So here we have consonants in this line, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea. So the sound of S is repeated. We also have simile. Simile is a device that is used to compare things. So in this poem, where is the simile? We have simile in the line, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. So the poet compares is sleeping flowers. Okay, so here we have simile. We also have metaphor in this poem. Suckle in a creed outworn. So the creed represents mother that nurses her child. So the poet has used so many literary devices in this 14-line poem. We also have assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. So here where we have assonance, we have assonance in the last line. Or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. So the sound O is repeated again. So it's an assonance. So students, in this poem, the poet has beautifully described that society is so bent on making and spending money that it ignores the pristine glory of nature. It's a universal theme that is relevant in today's world. Wordsworth philosophies that humanity must get in touch with nature in order to progress spiritually is also relevant in this poem. So students, I hope you have got the poem. Thank you.